So obviously, I haven't been invited to any of the alpha play sessions, as I'm not a popular YouTuber, but I do have some opinions and thoughts on this game that I feel would be better said sooner than later. I've heard over the course of Modern Warfare that tac sprinting is a pretty mixed bag. Some people like it, and others hate it. Before I begin, I should start off that I've spent a lot of time studying game design, and in doing so I don't see mechanics as black and white, and instead I see them on a spectrum. What matters just as much as solid mechanics in any game is presentation and execution of these mechanics, and sometimes a name change or a slight tweak is all it takes to completely change the balance of a game. To prove my point, let me refer you to a really old multiplayer game called Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. A game revolved around World War II, and of course having the iconic Thompson submachine gun and the MP40 machine pistol. The YouTube channel People Make Games made a video about this, so I'm just going to give you the gist. During the beta, the Thompson was considered overpowered compared to the MP40, and they nerfed the gun by making the audio less bassy. And it worked. How does this work? The guns had mathematically identical damage output, but server data showed the Thompson was getting more kills than the MP40, so if they're identical, how does that make sense? At that point, the designers realized that it was a psychological problem rather than a mathematical one. The Thompson had a bassier gunfire sound effect. The players felt more powerful using it, and in turn felt more confident in its abilities, thus securing more kills than with the MP40. It had nothing to do with math, it was purely about execution and presentation. The point that I am trying to make here is, sometimes the math of the mechanics themselves aren't the problem. The psychology of the players is what is sometimes just as important. So let's break this down. Modern Warfare had a decent speed, unlimited sprint, then a really fast, but limited tac sprint. I like this mechanic. It had tactical advantages and added to the depth of moving around in a firefight because it was quite limited. And it also allowed you to traverse the map at a consistent speed that isn't jogging at a subpar speed. But make no mistake, they aren't removing tac sprint in Black Ops Cold War. They are removing regular sprinting and buffing tac sprinting. The whole thing about tac sprinting is you moved at a fast rate but for a limited amount of time. That's how most of the Call of Duties dealt with sprinting. Do you see what I'm saying? Tac sprinting isn't the new addition to Modern Warfare. Running or regular sprinting was. So I just want to make one thing clear. They aren't removing tac sprinting from Call of Duty for Black Ops Cold War. They are removing running and making tac sprinting the only viable mechanic. So why does this matter? Because of psychology. You don't feel particularly fast when doing the jog, where your gun is raised and you're moving at a subpar speed. You feel fast when your gun is lowered and unusable, your guy is panting and your footsteps are stomping louder than an elephant. And in return, you move at close to your maximum speed. Of course, to achieve true maximum speed, you need a tac sprint. So in Black Ops Cold War, they are just simplifying it, so you're either feeling like you're moving at a snail's pace or running at Mach 5. No in between. So that brings me to the concern about pacing, and this turns to a quite subjective matter. When tac sprinting, then lowering to a normal sprint in Modern Warfare, it always felt much less frustrating than losing a little speed than in 2009's Modern Warfare 2, where you would sprint for the first few seconds, then have to time yourself between jogging and sprinting for the rest of the match. It always felt like I was losing time, and that I could always go just a little faster just if I had a little more time on the sprint timer. Even though it's technically the same, mathematically speaking, as having a very fast and limited sprint, or an extremely fast but extremely limited tac sprint, a moderately fast run, and a slow jog, it all comes down to how the player perceives all these different mechanics and the transition between the different forms of movement. So I'm not here to defend tac sprinting. That's already in the game, and it always has been. I'm here to defend running, because that's what helps with the game's pace on a psychological level. You don't feel yourself coming to a screeching halt when you still have the disadvantages of not using the gun and you're moving at near max speed, but you do feel yourself crash to a halt when that gun raises and you're in the middle of a field knowing a sniper's on you. There are few tactical options left to mitigate your demise, so you just start bunny hopping like a rabbit. This isn't a detriment to the gameplay of Black Ops Cold War, it's to the detriment to the psychology of it. I hope this video allowed you to look at sprinting in this game in a slightly different way, and I hope you have a nice day. Until next time, this is Thomas, signing off.